Oh my goodness, Rosabelle, you're calling me for once.
Happy 2025.
Thank you, Rosabelle. That means a lot. How did your New Year's go?
That's nice.
You sound a bit far away, I'm going to be honest.
I'm walking around a bit.
Why don't you put your earpods on?
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, what were you saying? Happy 2025, Rosabelle.
Yes, happy. How was Creed? How are the bed bugs?
Creed was so transcendent, and I think there
Really?
were no bed bugs.
Wow, what a perfect New Year's night.
What did you do in New Zealand?
I had a few people over, and then we ended up just doing each other's tarot cards and doing the future.
Oh,
And it was really fun.
what does your future have in store? Do you know?
I had such a nice reading. It was basically like, you have a great life. Everybody likes you. Just relax and don't be worried.
Roosevelt, I love that for you. That's so fucking great.
It was such a funny reading.
Can I tell you something?
Yes.
When I called before and you missed the call, I was calling about the podcast.
Do you need to? Have you been recording me this whole time?
Of course.
What the hell?
Today, we're talking to one of my favorite authors who's written this book that I really like, but it's basically an excuse to talk about modern internet culture and the ways that we communicate. And the author, Jason Pargin, is quite big on TikTok. And I know that TikTok, Rosabelle, is quite a big part of your life. And I guess I'm wondering, when you think about the internet and internet culture and TikTok and modern life, I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on how it's affected your life and the way you see the world.
I feel like a lot of people worry that the algorithm is closing how expansively we see the world. And I think that that is true, especially on TikTok, which has such a refined algorithm.
Yeah.
But I also find personally that I think that my understanding of the world, especially intergenerationally, has become so much more expansive because of social media, at least.
This is a bit of a hack question, but what's one of the craziest things you've seen on TikTok? Has it been something that's really surprised you?
Well, is this a leading question because you want me to talk about the big frog?
Yeah, can you please explain the big frog?
Yes, because on TikTok once there was a video of a guy with a really cute but giant pet frog, and I sent it to you, and you laughed at me and you said it was fake. And that was probably my first encounter with AI on social media, because at the time I was like, why would someone fake a big frog? Like, there's no payoff for this. And I felt like I had to get my act together in terms of my internet savviness.
I'm David Farrier, a New Zealander accidentally marooned in America, and I want to figure out what makes this country tick. Now, this is going to be one of those episodes where I'm just going to hope that you trust me enough by now to go on this journey with me, because it fits pretty loosely into the premise of this show. This week, I wanted to talk to one of my favorite American authors about the sorts of things I love talking about. Things like the internet, strange rabbit holes, and how odd and unique America is. Born in Lawrenceville, Illinois in 1975, Jason Pargin was part of my life before I even knew it, starting a website in the late 90s called Pointless Waste of Time, which ended up being part of another site called Cracked.com. As a New Zealander, Cracked.com provided an insight into American pop culture in a way I hadn't really experienced before. Movies, TV shows, music and games were analysed with wit, humour and smarts. There were also a lot of memes before we called memes memes. Jason ended up turning his internet writing into book writing, becoming a full-time novelist. And a few months back, I noticed he had a new book out called I'm Starting to Worry About This Black Box of Doom. It tells a story of an unhinged road trip across the United States. And it's also the story of how weird the internet and social media has become. So, get ready to meet an American who's curious about the world in a way that I really appreciate, because this is the Black Box of Doom episode.
Flightless, flightless, flightless bird touchdown in America. I'm a flightless bird touchdown in America.
Rob, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, David.
2025.
We made it.
We made it. We're still here, miraculously.
Yeah.
Now, just quickly, just to clarify, this video that Rosabelle saw of the big frog that she sent to the chat, it was about the size of a dog, and she had just seen it and gone, this is the biggest frog I've ever seen. I didn't know they got this big. I want to share this with my friends.
I mean, I also I get targeted a ton on Instagram for AI videos.
Oh, yeah.
Some are like really weird ones.
Yeah. Clearly just messed up and wrong.
Where they're like melting and turning into other things.
Yeah, a hot dog will turn into a puppy that'll turn into a woman.
Yeah, and then there are other ones that look like they are real things.
Yeah.
But they're not. So as of a couple days ago, I actually reset my Instagram algorithm, which you can do. You can go in and say, like, forget everything.
Great concept. What does it reset to? Like, what did you start getting like straight away? Was it a decent variety or?
Now it's, I think, just based on who I follow.
Yeah, okay.
And it like resets though, like who I follow in my feed, how it prioritizes those people. So I don't actually love it, but the things I was getting targeted for were getting too weird.
Because also, if you spend more than 2 seconds on a thing, that becomes your entire feed. So you watch like one weird AI video, suddenly it's nothing but that.
Yeah. Also, like, that's not necessarily how I want the content that's being fed to me. Like, I don't want it to prioritize what necessarily gets me to click and watch it for a little bit.
Well, no, because that
could be fucking weird.
You go completely, because the stuff that's usually stuff that is deeply like unsettling and odd, and you click it because you want to find out what it is, not because it's good for you in any way at all.
Or not that I'm necessarily more interested in that than something else. So I'll sometimes intentionally like, well, I like this and I like this. I don't really want to watch a video of that right now, but I'll click it because I want.
Isn't it crazy that we're having to spend our time even doing this, like trying to curate our own experience online just to be less filthy and like less annoying and less weird?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know. I think about this a lot, just the amount of my day that I waste doing. No, it used to be like I got annoyed at doing admin, like paying bills and that kind of thing. Now I get annoyed at things like this, like curating how I experience the internet.
Yes.
And you'd think in 2025 we'd be at a point where everything is easier. And look, maybe it's me aging out, but I feel like everything is just getting more difficult.
I think the AI stuff has started morphing it even weirder, and I feel like it amped up a lot the last couple months.
Well, it's getting like crushed into every product we have, right? Like, I think I mentioned to you this before, but I was messaging my friend Dan some like really like, I don't know, back and forth, like quite intense stuff about life. And the AI and Messenger was summarizing it into these pithy little lines he was getting. And he's like, none of us want this. I just want to read your messages, Dave, that you're sending when I have time. I don't want Messenger suddenly like truncating them into an AI response.
Well, even Google's doing it. But the thing that's weird to me with it is I do feel like socially people have issues with it. When Civil War came out over the summer, remember a bunch of people were like up in arms about.
That's right. The posters were all AI generated, right?
Which I did look at those posters and were like, these are awesome. Like, I really love.
They were cool
this
posters.
Campaign.
Yeah, there was one in like the Echo Park Lake, right, with one of those swan boats.
And people got real mad about that. I don't know if that was just the people that got mad were the louder people on the internet, but it seemed to draw a little bit of a line of like, okay, studios shouldn't be doing that with artwork.
I think people want to know if they're being taken down an AI path or not, right? It's like, comes back to the big frog. Like, just tell me if you tell me this is an AI thing, I don't mind looking at this big frog, but don't try and trick me that it's real when it's not.
Well, but then like, Google does this whole thing now where the search results are Google. I saw during the holidays, there was like full AI commercials.
Really?
That I think it was like, and I didn't like it. I was like, this feels like a crappy old commercial that like, I felt like there was life sucked out of it.
Yeah. It felt that in like uncanny zone of like, this isn't a human connection in any way.
There's something eerie about like the AI stuff. Those like videos where there's like an element of it that's missing.
No, it's missing a soul. Yeah. It's like missing a human. And no, you can pick that up, whether it's in like the flicker of an eye or just the way someone moves, or like whether they've got like 4 fingers or 5. But it's that feeling, right? It's like, ugh.
But from like a creative standpoint, it is kind of cool to be able to like output and explore that if it's like run by a human.
I'm going to completely drop the ball on this, but there's some concert film recently or a documentary that is basically every time it is generated by AI in a slightly different way, and so you're watching a different thing every time.
I saw MGMT do their like 20 years on the album
right
over the summer, and I do think all of the like video stuff for their live set, a lot of it was AI generated.
Yeah.
And it was like leaned into in a creepy way where like they weren't hiding.
Yeah.
It was AI.
Yeah.
And it was just like a little bit unsettling.
Yeah.
Too, which I think was intentional as well.
Yeah. For me, it's two things. It's that there's a human that's missed out on some work. And it's just when you start reading about the data centers that have been created to like crunch the numbers that are used to output this stuff, it's pretty insane.
Well, but I also don't know, like a human might not have missed out on the work if like, because there is the difference of an artist creating through AI and using it to facilitate their ideas. I feel like is maybe okay.
As opposed to like them being like, we're not going to pay someone to animate our backstage stuff.
Yeah.
So let's get AI to do it.
Which they could have like paid a shitload to some agency to create this, and some visual designer that does use AI, but they're able to do it in like a crazy efficient way to make this weird style. Like,
yeah,
I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing.
In my mind, it comes back to that thing of just the intent and also just like the overall truth of a thing. Like, I don't want more confusion in my life. Like, I found life confusing enough already. And if I have to go through my day being like Rosabelle, like, is this a real frog or is this a fake frog? It's just, I don't want to have to deal with that. I think that's like what it primarily boils down to for me.
Yeah. Well, and we're just in this world currently of there being a divide of what's reality and what's fake, even outside of
within the facts.
Yeah,
completely.
Where the last like 12 years, 8 years, that has been a big point of contention.
Completely.
Of like
100%.
People being intentionally deceitful.
Yeah, and now here's a whole new box set and a way that people can be deceitful en masse.
Where the truth is like a gray area now, which it shouldn't be.
It's so frustrating. And I don't think we're going to come back from it.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Well, that's what I mean. This topic today. This is a book, by the way. If I completely forget to do this, I love Jason's work. This is this back. I'm starting to worry about this back box of doom. I love this book. He basically gets stuck into like a lot of these kind of topics within the fiction that he writes, and we'll get into more of that stuff soon. Quickly, I just wanted to recap New Year. How was yours?
It was good. I was asleep before midnight.
You were sleeping?
Yeah.
I just am selfishly just wanting to talk about my New Year's.
Well, I'm not done talking about mine yet. I was asleep.
You went to sleep
before midnight. I did go to dinner.
Okay, you had a nice dinner?
8 o'clock.
Okay.
At Meteora, you and I have been there.
Okay, we've been there. Beautiful place.
There was a fun guy there that he walked in with gun holsters on, but it was like not with guns though.
Okay.
It was a fashion choice.
Oh wow. Gun holsters. No guns in them.
No guns in them. And then his date went to the bathroom at one point, and he just stood there sat there with his eyes closed until she came back.
That's such a good move. Because most people, they're just on their phone, right?
Yeah.
Shutting the eyes, I support this move. It's kind of wild. It's like at peace. I'm not going to distract myself. I'm going to wait for my beautiful date to come back from the bathroom.
Well, and they were like across from, like they were direct eye line from me. So I was just like watching them most of the time.
What posture? Was he just like...
I have a video of it. I'll show you. And then there was another point where him and his date were about 6 inches from each other, just like staring at each other, not talking.
Oh, they sound
for a good amount of time. No, it was like
sweet, or like what is happening right now.
It was a little bit more of that.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing. Because I find it really hard to lock eyes for too long with anybody. Like, and I think that's like a normal human behavior. Like, you start looking at someone for too long, and it gets weird.
Look away. Yeah, no, I agree.
It might have just been like a deep, deep love. It's like, I'm going into this new year with this person, and
for the record, I don't think either of them were doing anything wrong.
No. It's just an interesting observation.
It was interesting to witness.
Wow.
Let me show you the video really.
I love the eye shutting, because Yeah, I'm trying to not go on my phone at any available downtime. Like, I'm trying to be a bit more sort of chill about it. But then that's a vibe.
Yeah, it was intense.
I think we can leave this in. It's kind of fascinating. I mean, as long as we're not showing his face. That is fascinating.
Yeah, I just showed you the video.
The gun holsters add a certain level of intensity when you are sitting there with your eyes shut.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it was kind of futuristic too.
Yeah, I mean, looking at that, it feels like I'm looking at a scene from John Wick or something where Keanu is like preparing to like do some sort of like intense. Whoa. Stay tuned for more Flightless Bird. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Now, I love storytelling, and I guess thinking about 2025, what do you want your 2025 story to be? Every January brings you 365 blank pages waiting to be filled up with your life. And in 2025, maybe you're ready for a plot twist, or maybe there's a part of your story you've been wanting to revise, something to change. Life isn't about resolutions that fade in Feb. It's about picking up the pen and becoming the author of your own life. Or if you don't have a pen, you can just use a keyboard. Think of therapy as your editorial partner, helping you write new chapters and creating the meaningful story you deserve to live. One thing I've appreciated about being in America is that therapy is talked about a lot more openly. Wherever you are in the world, therapy can be a benefit. You've just got this person you can talk to outside of the situation you're in and can offer you advice that you wouldn't necessarily get from a friend that knows you and the situation too well. Sometimes it'd be good to have that outside perspective. BetterHelp is fully online, making therapy affordable and convenient, serving over 5 million people worldwide. Access a diverse network of more than 30,000 credentialed therapists with a wide range of specialties, and you can easily switch therapists anytime at no extra cost. Write your story with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/bird to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/bird. Flightless Bird is brought to you by Rocket Money. Now, the start of a new year is the perfect time to get organized, set goals, and prioritize what matters most. For me, a top priority is my financial wellness, which feels more important than ever in this incredibly unstable world. And thanks to Rocket Money, your goals can feel achievable. They show you all your subscriptions right in the one place, and they help you easily cancel ones that you've forgotten that you've been paying for. Rocket Money also pulls together all of your spending across all of the different accounts, so you can easily keep track of your spending habits and see where you can cut back. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. See all your subs in one place and know exactly where your money is going. For ones you don't want anymore, Rocket Money can help you cancel them. Rocket Money's dashboard gives you a clear view of your expenses across all of your accounts. You can get alerts if bills increase in price, if there's unusual spending activity, or if you're close to going over budget. Rocket Money will even try to negotiate lower bills for you. It's crazy. They automatically scan your bills to find opportunities to save, and then you can ask them to negotiate for you. They'll deal with the customer service, so you don't have to. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in cancelled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/bird. That's rocketmoney.com/bird. rocketmoney.com/bird. Okay, so I had a very different New Year's. I mentioned in the last step that I was going to go and see Creed, and I did, hence the Creed hat. Just a few observations. Vegas at New Year's was so intense. So me and Noah we stayed at Circus, which is, I haven't spent a lot of time in Vegas, but it was pretty rough.
Is it got like the rides outside of it?
It's a really good question. No, it doesn't have rides. It's right at the end of the strip. It's got water slides, but you wouldn't see them from the strip. It's like pretty low key. It's got inside, it has like performances from like clowns and stuff that you can watch inside the casino.
Fun.
But the hallway to our room, like everything was low. So my head was almost hitting lights as I was walking down the hallway. So it felt claustrophobic.
Was that intentional?
No, it's just the way this place is.
I mean, is it meant to be like a fun house?
No, I don't think so.
No.
It's just a really no, it's just built oddly and not in a way that's meant to be making a point. It's just like you could have felt like the walls were like moving in on us. So Circus was very intense. And we walked from there to the venue, which was at Caesar's Palace, which is like a half an hour walk. And as we walked along, just more and more police cars were starting to shut streets down. And then also the military. So there were big like Humvees and soldiers there. And that started to feel like Civil War, like a scene from that. And then by the time it got to Creed was on at 10:30, so we were kind of in the heart of it by about 10. There was so much police and so much military. It felt like something was going to break out.
Yeah, well,
like,
there
it
was
felt bad.
There was an explosion.
No, and okay, so that's the thing. So that night, I was talking to someone and they were doing random checks in different hotels where if you had a window facing the strip, you get random knocks on the door, just checking that it wasn't going to be a case like, was it Mandalay Bay where they had a shooter that unleashed on a country festival years ago?
When I went for F1 last year, it was the same. They were like all week checking hotel rooms.
Just random checks, making sure that you weren't the guy with like a bunch of weapons in the room.
Yeah.
It felt so oppressive. And then you mix that in with the casinos, the smell of a casino when you walk through, which is just like, I know like there's meant to be like air quality control there, but it's rough.
Well,
like,
and the people on the sidewalk doing that clicky thing with the cards.
Oh, the clicking in the cards, trying to get you to go to like strip joints and stuff.
Or it's cards for like prostitutes.
Yeah, right. I thought they were it was strip clubs, right. It's
no, and there's
sorts.
like signs like direct to your room in 30 minutes.
It's just an intense atmosphere. So yeah, that military was a lot. It was the weirdest experience getting to that. It's like the weirdest experience going to a show that I've ever had in my life.
Was that your first time in Vegas?
I've been there before.
Okay.
But this felt, it was
extra Vegas.
It was extra Vegas. And the military thing was so strange. The Creed concert was amazing. So essentially, it was a Creed concert. Sort of what you would expect after listening to our Creed episode. Having Scott Stapp count down the new year. They played Higher, and then the band left the stage. Then they came back on. Scott Stapp counted in the new year.
Nice.
And then they played the encore. And it was just the funniest, but also like I genuinely had a really, really good time in there.
Was it full?
It was, I'd say 3/4 sold out. So they played,
not sold out.
Not sold out. Okay. No. So they did 2 nights. So they did a show the previous night, which was sold out. This one a little bit quieter.
Okay.
But it was just one of the weirdest New Year's experiences I've ever had in my entire life.
Was there the same amount of like prayer and
it was pretty much
stuff?
The same set list and the same kind of speeches as the show I went to. Yeah. A lot of people like doing like what they used to in church, like a lot of people out with their hands raised like this. Probably my favorite point of the night was he was giving one of his speeches. And so just about kind of like America's divided, we've got to come together. So I went to go to the toilet. I was in there and they were just, they had the audio just like spouting in through the bathrooms. And so I was pissing and I just had Scott Stapp giving a speech, which was amazing, like chef's kiss amazing.
That happened to me at the Vista Theater when I went to see Zone of Interest.
Oh,
and
God.
I did not know that, and it was during a quiet part that I went to the bathroom.
Oh, that movie is intense.
So I'm at the urinal, and then German like yelling just starts happening, and it scared the shit out of me.
I mean, I quite like the idea of like you don't miss the film, like you kind of know what plot's going on.
Yeah, but it was just like the way it was timed with when I went, and it being quiet when I went in there, so I didn't know it was going to happen, and then
that is
when it came
so
back,
surreal.
Yeah, it was.
Oh my God,
was the like MAGA element as present there? Because I feel like Vegas is different than like Redlands where you went to see them.
No, I didn't see any t-shirts that had like "Don't take my guns away." There was no like "Don't tread on me" stuff. This was more probably like old rockers, and it was like a little bit more. It didn't have that same element. Like the crowd felt more mellow than it felt when I saw them at that festival.
It's also post-election too. You went pre-election for that, like.
And to be honest, like. There's a thing, even in my own mind, I'm like, am I going to Creed as a joke or do I like this stuff? It's both. Like, I genuinely like their music. They write a banger of a song. Like, Higher, great song, undeniable, huge. But also, like, just the whole the whole culture of Creed is quite funny because it's like it's stuck in the 90s.
Yeah.
Like Scott Stapp had like tight black jeans, singlet, and you know the chain going to your wallet. He had 2 chains going to his wallet. Like that stuff is just inherently quite funny to me.
Yeah.
And so it's both. I love the music. I also find it incredibly entertaining and funny.
Was 2 Chainz part of the show too?
Wasn't part of the show. I see what you did there. And then, of course, the other crazy thing that happened is when we left the next morning, about an hour after we'd left, that's when that Cybertruck was parked outside Trump Tower.
How far was that hotel from you?
The weird thing about Trump Tower is it's not on the strip. It's like in its own little area. Like as we were walking to Creed, I actually commented to Noah, I was like, oh, Trump Tower is in its own little space. Like it's got its own thing going on.
You could just see it off in the distance.
You could see it. It's just this really tall tower in the middle of nothing.
Yeah.
So gentleman shot himself and then let off a bunch of fireworks and some gas bottles in the Tesla out front of Trump Tower. Crazy thing. Yeah, so we're about an hour out and it started popping up on social media and I was like, oh, we were just near there. That's weird.
So it was a suicide? I don't think I got an update on what happened.
My understanding of it as we're recording now is he shot himself and then things were detonated. Yeah, there wasn't that much damage done because most of the blast was contained within the Cybertruck. So, of course, Elon came out tweeting about how great the Cybertruck is because he's like, because this is a Cybertruck, it's so strong, it wouldn't let the blast out. So there's just all these like very American things around it. You know, essentially Elon kind of used it as a commercial for how great the Cybertruck is, which I found this added level of weird to it.
Yeah, I mean, the headline that I saw that I think I sent you was just like Elon said the car was working as it was intended to.
Yeah.
And that was the comment currently at that time.
I guess the interesting thing is they could track exactly where that truck had been and like the lead up to it. So I think they helped law enforcement authorities like sort out what had happened prior pretty quickly. But yeah, an awful thing, a very weird thing to happen as we left. Another thing, because I was with Noah, who was from that Spaceman Barry episode, we were going to check out the Tropicana, which is where Barry said the UFO had its base. Didn't realize the Tropicana, they'd given it a controlled demolition like last year. No more Tropicana. So yeah, those are my notes from Vegas. It was a really weird time. Oh, the last thought I had, driving back from Vegas, back into LA, saw the Goodyear blimp. And I was like, that is a great flightless bird.
Yeah.
Did some Googling. Guess how much the Goodyear blimp costs? What do you think that thing's worth? Like, how much is that like worth? Like on the insurance forms, how much is insured for? Because this blew me away.
$6 million.
21 million.
21 million.
That's how much that blimp is worth.
Wow. Yeah, if we can somehow get you up in that blimp.
I want to be up in that blimp. It moves so slowly. There's a specific place it lands. I've emailed the blimp's PR people being like, get me on that blimp. I want to be on that blimp. How amazing would that be?
That would be pretty amazing.
I also hate heights, so I'd be terrified the entire time. Also, what is the blimp driver doing? Like, it's got to be like a quiet drive. Like,
it's a mix between like a hot air balloon and a like Wright Brothers plane.
I don't even know the structure of one of those things. Like, I was blown away that it cost $21 million. I'm like, what is costing that much money? I imagine it takes a lot of like helium. I imagine that costs a lot, but the structure of the thing, I have no idea. How big's the cockpit? Has he got like, can he sleep up there?
Do they do rides in it?
All
or
of that.
Is it just one guy?
Yeah, I'm deeply curious. Is he up there with his family? I want to find out. So yeah, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Any other thoughts and queries about the year?
No, the blimp just makes me also think that we should get you behind the scoreboard at Fenway Park in Boston.
What is that?
Fenway Park has the big green monster. And they just it's a wall in the outfield. It's a baseball stadium where the Boston Red Sox play.
Okay.
Which Liam Hendricks now plays for the Boston Red Sox.
I love Liam Hendricks. Okay.
And I think they're still manually like putting the score and numbers up on this wall, and it's just this like old historic stadium.
I like the sound of this. It sounds like there would be like a story behind like who's putting the numbers up.
Yeah, I think there is.
And sorry, there's a big green monster?
The big green monster is what they call the big green wall. So a lot of the outfield walls are like, I don't know, 12 feet maybe. This one is massive. It goes up like 3 stories.
Cool. Okay.
So it's a shorter wall, and then it makes it harder to hit over it.
Okay.
because it's so tall.
Okay.
But people do.
I think that sounds incredibly American.
Yeah.
I'm into that. And I want to see Liam again.
But
I
the
want to
idea
have
of-
him cussing on the podcast again.
The idea of something that exists still and is being used still as it was intended
Yeah.
from forever ago.
Well, yeah,
like
it's
the
like-
blimp is.
Yeah, it's like
made me think of
a
that.
time capsule in a way, right?
Yeah.
It's like this is a thing that still exists, and it's still like awe-inspiring.
Yeah.
Like you see that blimp, and you're like, "Holy shit, it's the blimp!" It's like it's still amazing. It's got no AI, doesn't need it.
No. I'm gonna
Love
text.
this.
I'm gonna text Liam and see if we can get you behind
That would
green wall.
be. I would love that so much. Stay tuned for more Flightless Bird. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Support for Flightless Bird comes from Quince. Now, here in LA, it's starting to get pretty darn chilly, and I really like to be warm. So I am either in front of the TV watching documentaries covered in a big giant duvet, or I am outside in my puffer jacket that I got from Quince. Because when it comes to winter, it's like survival of the fittest out there. And I'm willing to do, or sometimes buy, whatever I can to stay cozy. And for the ultimate cold weather necessities made from premium materials, you've got to check out Quince. With Quince, you can treat yourself to true quality at an affordable price. No matter what you're looking for, all Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. And by partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, Quince passes the savings on to you. Their super soft fleece sweatpants are a major upgrade to whatever you're lounging around in on that couch right now. Highly recommended. And as I said earlier, the puffer jacket, that's the one that I love. But if you go to quince.com, you'll find something that you love. Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices, and they use premium fabrics and finishes for that luxury feel in every piece. Luxuriate in coziness without the luxury price tag. Go to quince.com/bird for 365-day returns plus free shipping on your order. That's QUINCE.com/bird to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/bird. In the meantime, this is my conversation with Jason Pargin. We talk about his book, and I just like talking to him about his observations on the internet because I love the internet. And obviously in America at the moment, there's a big debate around whether TikTok is even going to exist here anymore. That goes back and forth through the courts. He is a big TikTok user, which we get into. Okay, so this is a very self-involved way to start the story, but almost a year ago, a bunch of people started sending me this video on TikTok. It was a 3-minute clip of this man in his late 40s reviewing my old documentary Tickled, and honestly, it did a better job of selling it than I did.
This is one of the weirdest and most unsettling things you can watch that doesn't involve anybody dying.
That video had a lot of likes and views, like more than anything I'd ever got online. And suddenly I was getting other people messaging me about Tickled and how to watch it, to which I replied, just Google it. My point is, this old thing I'd made had somehow become popular again. And then I realized the man who'd made that video was Jason Pargin, one of my favorite authors who is apparently now a TikTok star. So I convinced him to talk to me on Zoom. You did this really flattering, nice tease of my documentary Tickled from a while back. And, you know, Tickled was this documentary that had kind of had its time. It had kind of sort of fizzled out, and you did that review, and then suddenly people seemed to be watching it again. So it's just this funny kind of thing where I made this thing with this sort of old-fashioned format of documentary. Suddenly that's finding a new life again via you on TikTok, who is an author that is finding this new life online as well.
So some of the people who are listening to this are my fans who I've sent here from social media, and they actually don't know who you are. So there's two groups listening now. There's people who have no idea who I am, and there's people who don't know who you are. People out there, what he said is the word tickled. That is the name of the documentary. I don't like to talk about what's in it because the whole point is it starts off in the first few minutes. You say, oh, this is mildly amusing. And then it goes so far off the rails and so far down a weird rabbit hole that you're not going to believe it.
As Jason talks, I realize we're both sort of excited to be having this conversation, mutual fanboys of each other's weird shit.
Now, I'm sitting here talking about it like it's a movie I watched where this person actually had to live through it, and it is harrowing. But this one and then the one you made, Mr. Oregon, these both touch on subjects that I am secretly obsessed with. And what I'm about to say is not a scientific explanation. I'm not an expert. I have this pet belief that the world is full of people who would be cult leaders if they had that ambition. They have a superb ability to manipulate. They have a Machiavellian personality. They have a desire to control people, but they do not have the ambition. They don't have like the messianic lore or worldview. They're not L. Ron Hubbard. They're not somebody looking to take over the world. So what they have is a little weird cult around them of just like a few people. They either are controlling those people or victimizing them, or they are like fiercely loyal to them. And you can see that this person, like you talk to them and there's something otherworldly about them and kind of dangerous and kind of fascinating.
This to me is all very, very American. Like, I feel this country is set up for this personality type to absolutely thrive.
It's not every day that a zookeeper went to prison for murder for hire.
There are more captive tigers in the U.S. than there are in the wild throughout the world.
Animal people are nuts, man. They're all crazy.
This, the people who watched Tiger King, which I realize is not a great piece of journalism, but what people found compelling about that is that in this circle of people who run low-rent tiger zoos, they all have these little cults of like 6 people, and they dictate how they dress, what they eat, where they live, how they talk, and they are fiercely loyal to the guy who owns the tigers, and it's so weird, and it's like, wait, are these people everywhere just hiding amongst us? And the only reason you've never heard about them is because they never had a shootout with the police. They're happy to just run their little kingdom. And both of those, I don't know how you ran into 2 of those people in your life, but it seems like there's a similarity because in both cases, I found them absolutely chilling.
So we've established that both of us are fascinated by many cult leaders, Americans like Spaceman Barry from a few episodes ago. We're also both really into exploring American culture in general, which is how Jason's gotten so big on TikTok with hundreds of millions of views. This is his video about Dennis the Menace.
Before you ever accuse someone of stealing your idea or of plagiarism, please consider the bizarre case of Dennis the Menace. Dennis the Menace, you see up there, first debuted in the United States in 1951 in March, and the same week of the same month of the same year, Dennis the Menace also debuted in the UK. These had nothing to do with one another. Neither artist or company knew the other was working on it. They never communicated, they never spoke. But by blind coincidence, after all of human history had passed without a comic called Dennis the Menace, on the same week, 2 completely separate artists came up with a rambunctious young misbehaving child with that name and published their comics within days of one another by blind coincidence. This is what they call parallel thinking. 2 people separately influenced by the same cultural forces and their backgrounds were similar enough that they arrived at the same place separately.
Every TikTok he makes takes you down some weird rabbit hole like that one, and it's made him popular.
Well, see, here's the thing. These days, I have a much larger audience on TikTok than I have in books or in my old articles or in anything else. I joined TikTok at age 47 2 years ago, and that is the first time I did any kind of video stuff ever. I used to not like to have my face out there at all. So I had to teach myself how to do video because I was told, look, I mean, I could go to a bookstore. They've got a shelf that's like book talk recommendations. And it's like, hey, this is where the readers are. This is where the young people who read, this is where they get their recommendations. You can either reach out to TikTok or you can just wait for all of your fans to get old and die and hope that that happens before you die. So I joined and had to teach myself how to be on camera and then to like talk about interesting things. And then the way you do it is about 95% of the feed is just, here's an interesting thing I want to talk about. And then the other 5% is, oh, by the way, I write books for a living. So now I have something like 550,000 followers on TikTok. The videos have been viewed something like 500 million times. It's like 500 million total views on the channel. So now it will be very common to hear people say, oh, this elderly TikTok influencer is trying to write a book. He's branched out into book writing the same way that like Logan Paul became a boxer. It's like, no, listen, that's not what happened. I am a washed up author trying to revive his career in his late middle age by trying to talk to the youth where they are, even though we're from completely different worlds.
His popularity on TikTok got him thinking about how much technology comes into play when amplifying certain voices, and how certain horrific people owe their rise to just having access to a new thing, a new invention.
This is a terrible comparison and an example of the type of terrible comparisons I make. One thing that people have talked about is that when Hitler came along, he came along at the same time as the invention of the loudspeaker, where for the first time in history, you could hold a gigantic rally and they could all hear you. When you watch a movie about the life of Christ or about William Wallace in Braveheart, and he's speaking to a crowd of 30,000 people,
for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
The only people that can actually hear him talking, if you were actually there, are like the 6 people in front. Everybody in the back is like, is he talking to us? What's he saying? The ability to hold a rally and everything he did about his persona, Hitler's persona, was based around the idea of the microphone and your voice booming and the spectacle of 50,000 people and all of those banners. That was a thing you could not do in another era. I don't know that Hitler's style of manipulating people is possible if they don't invent the loudspeaker in his time. That seems like a silly thing to say, but his style in a little beer hall is one thing. It's when it becomes a stadium and the energy of that crowd, it becomes something else. The technology and the man came along at the same time. So I think you can see this through history. The printing press and certain writers came along at the same time. If the printing press hadn't existed, the only people that can read what he wrote are people are going to see a scroll. So I'm fascinated by this idea of how technology changes the game for certain personality types.
I mean, just look at podcasting in the election. Without podcasting, would Joe Rogan be as Joe Rogan-y? And without Rogan, how would Donald Trump access all those young men staring at a computer screen? Technology shapes the culture, and the culture shapes us.
In the United States, the turmoil of the 1960s and the peace movement and all of that does not happen without television arriving here in the 1950s. Because you start to see the images of war and spreading around ideas, like the speed at which ideas get picked up, the speed at which fashion trends and language gets picked up with television versus people doing it personally. And trends and jargon and slang and fads used to move very, very slowly. But with TV, it's like this is disseminated like this. This is what we're all wearing now. And then 1 week later, the trend that started in California, you're seeing it in the Midwest. Things have accelerated even faster in the internet era. It takes the culture a while to adapt, and the technology doesn't give us that chance. I wouldn't go backward. The fact that today you can have a community online where the technology lets you be in a club, in a group, where, in a Discord server, in whatever, where you have friends who are all going the same thing you're going through, I would not take that away regardless of what the other consequences were. The ability of people to find each other, the ability of non-believers in very religious communities to connect with other non-believers and realize, oh, I'm not crazy, I'm not a sinner, I'm not abandoned by God. There's other people like me who see the world the same way. I would not take that away from anyone, but there is nothing in our brains that has evolved to handle this much information. There's nothing in our brains that has evolved to handle this many social connections. To be exposed to the opinions of 100,000 people a day on social media who you've never met, that was never a thing anybody had to do before. So all of the things that we teach kids when they're growing up about how to live in the world, we don't have those lessons.
We don't have those lessons and we can't keep up. TikTok is probably already on the way out. If they don't ban it, the kids are leaving. You missed the boat. TikTok is for old people now. The kids have moved on to something else and you don't even know the name of it yet.
How to teach a 12-year-old girl now how to deal with the comments she's getting on TikTok or on Instagram or on whatever app they actually use, which I probably don't know the name of it. I think it's the rare parent that knows how to prepare her for what she's seeing. It's like, oh, you've gone viral. 50,000 people have seen this little video of you dancing or whatever to this pop song, and TikTok's algorithm is feeding everybody. And now there's 5,000 comments, and a lot of those comments are like from 40-year-old men telling you how beautiful you are. Do parents know how to tell a 12-year-old girl how to deal with the fact that you're famous for today, but only today? Like, here's how you deal with that. Here's emotionally how you deal with that. I wouldn't, and I do this. I don't think we know how to teach them how to deal with that yet. And so they wind up just being the subjects of this big mass experiment that they didn't consent to and being subjected to this technology that we never tested. It was just suddenly out there.
There was something I noted down from your book. I jotted it down here, and I don't keep meaning to bring it back to me, but it sort of resonated with how I felt when I was making Tickled years ago with Dylan. I might be mucking up the words here a little bit, but you wrote, there's this feeling that there's no word for yet because no one had ever experienced it prior to the internet era, that dizzying sensation of seeing an online drama escape into the real world. And when I read that line that you wrote, I was like, yeah, that is a thing. This is a thing that we've all like witnessed or seen or heard about. And if you've been involved in it, it is the most thrilling thing you can ever feel.
Yes, it's where there is a safety and a separation that you thought existed from all the stuff that's happening on your screen. There was a viral video years ago. It was one of the earliest YouTube videos I saw where a guy is watching a chase in, I think it's LA. The local news here, they love to get the news helicopter and film like a chase.
Westbound, I believe he's on Century.
So he's watching on his TV and then realizes that the chase is coming into his neighborhood.
The law enforcement helicopter's on this.
Holy shit!
So he's like filming his TV with his phone and then hears a noise and then turns around and you see the cops and then this vehicle all compiling into his yard from the chase he had just been watching. And at this moment, it's like, oh, this was really happening. And now it's here. This thing that we all thought was kind of fun and games and kind of like, yeah, I'm going to destroy this person's reputation. I'm going to get them fired from their job or whatever. And then suddenly it's at your door. It's like in the ring where the little girl crawls out of the TV. It's like, oh, no, this isn't real. These people don't actually exist. It's that feeling when you see it happen, where you see something spill into your real world. For example, somewhere right now, there's some teenager who said something anonymously on 4chan that has gotten police to come to his door because he made a threat against the president or something and thought, well, these are just words I'm typing on a screen. It's like, no, you made a statement. They can find you. People on that website absolutely will cooperate with the police. They can track you down. And now here they are in your living room and your parents are there and they're asking you if you actually intend to assassinate the president. And that feeling of this, like a movie come to life. And so much of the way people behave online, it's based on the fact that they clearly on some level don't really think it's real. They may say they do, but they would not behave the same way if they truly conceptualize the fact that there's a human being on the other end of that.
The idea of something springing from the virtual world into the real world is something I'm obsessed with. It happened to me really clearly in Tickled. I was sitting in New Zealand exchanging these weird, sort of funny emails with a bunch of quirky, angry people online. The next minute, they were sending their lawyers from New York to meet me in New Zealand. Jason sees this phenomenon of things jumping from the online world to the real world all the time. You often see it in America in the aftermath of a mass shooting.
If there's a mass shooting and you're on Reddit watching a live thread as headlines come in, and you see the speculation that rises to the top, and you see somebody who has decided that they've dug up the shooter's social medias, but in reality, they found a totally different person who happens to have the same name, that guess what? That's now out there. So that's been picked up from Reddit onto 4chan and onto Twitter and onto TikTok. Gets now out there, and there's no stopping it because engagement is engagement, and the system doesn't know whether or not what you said is true or false. It just knows that people are talking. And so now you've got an innocent person out there who you've called a mass shooter, something that in the past, falsely accusing somebody of something like that would have been a serious crime. But on the internet, we do it once every 5 seconds because everybody wants to be first.
My time with Jason is winding up. We both have stuff to do. But if you like his observations, try his TikTok or his books, like I'm starting to worry about this black box of doom. As well as being this really zany, crazy story, you also learn a lot. One fact in particular stuck in my mind, and it was the last thing I talked to him about. Look, before I do leave you to get on with the horrors of this day, is there a particular fact from Black Box of Doom that you're particularly proud of? One that I really enjoyed learning about was this worm that you ingest via eggs. When you drink water, it will get into your guts, the eggs will hatch, the worm will sort of bury up through your guts, through your skin, and will present as a blister on your skin. This blister gets very hot. You want to cool it down with water, and that is simply giving this now couple of foot long worm a little drink, which is just what it wants.
It's the guinea worm. The only way to get it out of your body is to roll it up on a stick a few inches at a time over the course of months, because the worm can grow to be up to 3 feet long and lives in your muscle. And the reason it is brought up in this book is because it used to infect millions of people a year, including children. And that, I think last year, the number of guinea worm cases worldwide was like 10. Not 10 million, 10, because we've wiped it out. There's a series of governments and NGOs and a lot of heroes have, through sanitation and medication, everything, have this horrible, horrible thing that used to be common, have all but stopped it. And this kind of miracle occurs in the background all the time. Because if you go by the way people talk about politics online, it just sounds like the worst, craziest people representing the most fringe point of views, just hurling petty insults at each other. But here in the real world, actual real problems are solved all the time. Rivers are cleaned up and buildings are built and all sorts of medications get approved. And the average everyday bureaucrat and employee and worker is out there just doing their job, and they're doing it well because they take pride in it. And that's why we have a civilization. But it is not exciting to stop and talk about the problems we've solved, like the fact that cancer survival rates have skyrocketed just in the last 30 years because we got so much better at screening, so much better at detection. And people complain, like, why can't we cure cancer? Well, we've gone a long way toward curing cancer. The number of people who have died from it keeps going down. We've made huge strides, but there's not much profit to be made in telling you that. There's much more engagement to be had by trying to scare you about the next thing. But you can get a very skewed version of the world that way. And you can get a sense that at some point in the past, the world was wonderful and it's been falling apart ever since. That is not true.
I really like that to end on. This disgusting story that somehow went somewhere positive and slightly uplifting. The story of a worm you have to extract from your body inch by inch, leading to a reminder that despite what it might seem like right now, especially in America, there are people out there doing amazing things. Things might seem worse, but maybe, in many ways, it's not as bad as we might think. So just so you know, as you're listening to that, or watching it on YouTube, Rob was giggling away every time. So on YouTube, there's a little photo we took for whenever I'm talking in the doc.
Yeah, we did a little photo shoot.
A little photo. And it was, Rob was like, this is just a temp. We're just going to mock up what this looks like. We've just continually used that photo. And it looks like I've been out on a 2-day bender, which is probably actually how I look right now currently. It's just something about it. It's rough.
You look extra deranged. I had the thought of like, oh, we can probably take some new ones. But then that thought right now... I was like, I'm not sure would be much better. That one maybe is better.
Sometimes you look at a photo of yourself and you're like, I look like that. It's one of those moments. Anyway, so something that Jason does, and I'm not sure if I talked about this enough, but in all his books, the way he writes in fiction is he's got a story going on, but the characters are constantly interacting and talking in a way that just lets them bring in all these facts about the real world. And so as it's sort of like Michael Crichton used to do it in a way, like you'd be reading this thriller, but then along the way, you're like learning about science.
Yeah, or like Eric Larson, I think, does that a lot.
I don't read his stuff, but yeah, same sort of thing.
Devil in the White City, which was a lot about like Chicago.
Gotcha.
But I think it actually is based on a crime that happened.
Jason does it in like a very hyper way, so you're just constantly absorbing pop culture the whole way. Have you ever seen the film John Dies at the End? That's him as well. So that was a book he wrote. It's a really great film. I also recommended that a lot. But yeah, I like his stuff. And my main fact that I still love, if you Google guinea worm removal, there are just amazing videos of people just winding the worm up on like a little stick to like extract it from inside.
Yeah, that reminds me of like I remember hearing about ingrown hairs in someone's like stomach that got like knotted up to a degree
that's incredible.
Was just like the size of a baseball.
I love medical videos of problems. Like there's a chat I'm in with Rosabelle and some of my oldest New Zealand friends. It's called Intestinal Worms.
Is it the one where the frog was sent?
That's where the frog was sent.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was called Intestinal Worms because we were all together watching videos of intestinal worms being removed from humans. And we're all watching it together and we're like, let's call this group chat Intestinal Worms. It's always been the worms ever since.
You should look up extracting ingrown hairs to send to that group.
That's my new thing.
I'm sure there's some gross ones out there.
Yeah, I love hair. I love pimple popping. I love worms, all that stuff. I'm down.
I hate all of these things.
Did you have any takeaways from Jason's thoughts on the internet and culture in the world?
I mean, it's all just super interesting. The positive and negatives of connecting these communities online. I think it's great that people can feel less alone and find like-minded people on the internet, but then you also have the other side of that where
it's that balance,
not
right?
Great people are finding other not great people.
Yeah, for every like closeted gay kids that finds someone they can talk to, you've got a Nazi meeting a Nazi. It's
and you hope that the good outweighs the bad, and we're really just hearing the bad examples because usually, I mean, it's the same with comments that like
completely they rise to the top.
The louder, more obnoxious ones may seem like they're more prevalent.
Yeah,
but
completely.
They're maybe not
but
the majority.
They're the loudest people. It's like that old thing I think about this, like you're always going to fire off an email to someone to complain about something. You're really going to write them an email being like, I love that, or I felt good about that. Like you send stuff when you're angry and that elevates to the top.
Which was also kind of what he was talking about. We're not hearing the positive stories as well.
All the amazing stuff going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. The fact that people aren't infested with the guinea worm anymore, like that's not a headline. That's just something that happened because science is amazing that we completely forget about.
Which, I mean, we're probably guilty of it on this show, and your work too.
Oh, my whole life is just highlighting terrible people doing terrible things mostly, and it's like that's not an accurate portrayal of the world.
But it's also, I don't think you do it in a sense of like, let's put these people on a pedestal. It's more like, share this interesting story.
Completely. I think it's like, talking about bad stuff happening, because there's also that thing around like the fear that you get from the news, right? Like crime's always going to be reported, like a crime's going to be reported, and it gives people this inaccurate feeling of like how dangerous a place actually is. Like there's things like that in the media that I find fascinating, and it's that balance.
And there is a thing, there is a purpose to being able to live out some of those fears. I mean, it's the same with like true crime and why it trends so highly among women, because that release valve is valuable to have.
Yeah, and to feel seen and to be able to process those fears in a way that is
in a safe space.
In a safe space, yeah, before anything's actually acted out. Yeah, I love Jason. I'm a big fan of his stuff. And his TikTok is, I mean, he basically started the TikTok to promote his books, but to do that, he just ended up releasing videos that would actually go viral. And he just is this fact master of just like finding the weirdest stuff, like the fact that Dennis the Menace was come up with in like 2 different continents
at
the same time, which is just completely mad. And there are different examples of that, right? Like these movies that come out like Although that is probably just Hollywood swapping that.
Black Dahlia at the same time as Hollywoodland.
Yeah, that stuff. Yeah. What's like Volcano and Dante's Peak the same year, stuff like that. Deep Impact and what was the other one? Armageddon. Just these things all spring up at the same time.
It does always trip me up to the idea of just how fast these social media platforms change, of like how all consuming even Instagram is, which at this point, I don't know if like we're the old ones now because we're using Instagram, and to me, the old ones are the ones using Facebook, but just like generationally, how much that's passed.
Yeah, completely.
And just though how much we depend on Instagram as a platform for our work.
Yeah.
And that goes away, then
it's
figuring
mad.
out like, all right, how do we make this show and this business work without that thing?
I mean, that's the thing. It's like that the newsletter I write, Webroom, the big part of what I like about that is that is mine. Like I have an email address and that will never go away. I can always directly communicate. And when you compare that with what you would invest in like Twitter or X or whatever, or Instagram, it's like, it's great when your audience is there, but they do one tweak on that and it's dead. I hate to think about how much time I've spent in my life over the last like 10 years posting and writing on Instagram. I have control over none of it. Like that's so silly to invest so heavily in that.
But inversely, you have more potential to reach more people on a platform like Instagram than you do on a newsletter.
You can tell people about things and hope that they'll find you in the place that you actually like want people to be reading you. But it's that, it's the lack of control you have over it. And you have people doing so well on TikTok, they do one tweak of the algorithm and suddenly like your audience is gone.
Or it gets banned in America. And then
or it gets banned in America.
These businesses that were built and dependent on using TikTok.
Yeah.
Or even people that are making all this money on TikTok.
Yeah.
That gets banned, that goes away. Like there's someone's livelihood gone.
Yeah, gone instantly. Do you have a like gut feeling on whether TikTok will get banned here or whether it will just remain?
I mean, I feel like we've been hearing this for 5 years.
It keeps bouncing.
Point, so I don't think it's gonna happen.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
Yeah.
I also think like if Trump sees himself being popular on there and being talked about, then there's no way it's going to get banned. Yeah. That's the thing.
Facebook still exists now, and I'm sure there's still a lot of people using it.
Do you remember when you would, I mean, maybe you didn't do this, but in New Zealand, when Facebook first came out, you would have like a night out and you would take photos and you would just upload like all 50 into a folder being like, great Friday night. Yeah. Just chaos.
Well, but and then even before that, though, it was MySpace and like how prevalent MySpace was. Like that was such a part of the music scene for me when I was growing up, and like Pure Volume. And like discovering bands on that.
What's Pure Volume?
It was a streaming site for music. I'm sure it still exists, but then like remember like top 4 and top 8 on MySpace?
Yeah, I do.
And
it's
like
vague,
how important that was,
completely.
where you assigned your friends there. But then I do remember within Pure Volume too, it was like the top 10 bands on the site. Like that was a game changer for the success of this band or not.
Yeah, right. Did you ever make the transfer to, was it Bebo that came after MySpace? Did you ever have that? Or was that a New Zealand thing?
I mean, what was it?
Bebo. B-E-B-O.
No.
I can't even remember what the gap was between like when MySpace stopped being a thing and when Facebook came. There was a big gap in that time,
there was also LiveJournal and
That's
Zynga.
right, LiveJournal, which I never did LiveJournal, which surprises me because it's very much up my alley.
Yeah, I think I had a LiveJournal at one point.
Oh, I hope it still exists, and I hope I find it.
That was also like part of the music community was driving a lot of that, at least for me culturally. Of like, there's bands on here's their LiveJournal, and here's their like tour updates, and
the crazy thing as well, like all that's lost now. Like that's gone. Like Internet Archive will have like a tiny bit of it, but all that culture is like dead to the world now.
But so much of that just moves from platform to platform. So I guess that's almost a positive from this, of like what people were using LiveJournal for, they then used on MySpace and then Facebook, and it was just kind of this evolving thing, but it was still all about the connective tissue of
I love that still that people can communicate continuously. What my brain gets obsessed with is like always like documenting stuff. Yeah. And I worry like the aliens come down in like 200 years and they look at this phase. There's just nothing documented. It's all just shifting so much. It's like this part of the culture, like what even is it as far as like a documented thing. It just doesn't exist.
I like documenting things too, but then part of me, it almost feels pointless and hopeless because of looking at look at what I was documenting 10 years ago and the quality of that. It's on a CD-ROM somewhere now that I can't even, unless
Access.
I buy an adapter for my
Yeah,
computer
it's on a zip
plugs
disk.
in.
Yeah.
And then like the resolution of that's shit.
Terrible. Yeah, I know.
Which if the progression of quality changes as it did then.
Yeah, which it will do.
Our HD videos, our 4K videos on our phone now are going to look like standard definition low res files from 15 years ago that
I know
we're also looking at.
And there's also just the stress of like, sometimes I get stressed about the amount of videos and photos on my phone, and I look at it and I'm like, here are 10,000 things. Should I have these somewhere or ordered? Because it's just a mess. My camera roll is just 10,000 random things.
Yeah, but it is fun to like go through and look
things
at
I didn't even
too.
remember had happened.
Yeah.
It's like wild. But like there's part of me that's like twitching, being like, should this be more organized? What should I do with this? Should this be in an album? You know, I used to meticulously have like hard drives that I'd like order all my photos into like dates and events and stuff, you know?
Should we get into scrapbooking this year?
Oh my God, age-wise, I'm probably not far off.
I mean, maybe that's an episode too. Maybe that's how we get
love
into it.
scrapbooking.
We'll do an episode on scrapbooking.
My friend Kay, who lives on Long Island, I met her while I was making Tickled. She was linked in with that story, but she bought out
another one.
LinkedIn. she showed me her scrapbooking world. She'd be in her 50s, and it's just a whole other thing. And she gets together with other ladies, and they scrapbook. And that's all they do over a weekend, and it's this huge thing.
I think I could get down on scrapbooking.
Oh, I absolutely could. Like, I guarantee you at some point I will get into that.
Yeah, I like the visual aspects of it. I mean, I still have a little binder portfolio thing at home that's got like all of my tickets and backstage passes and stuff from
that's
shows
so
over
cute.
the last 25 years.
Really?
It
and
stopped
you sort of
at some
stick them
point.
in, and you sort of write like, great night.
I used to. It used to be kind of chronological. Now it's just a pile.
If we do a scrapbooking episode,
yeah, I'll bring it in.
I definitely want to see that. That's really, I used to collect stuff like that as well, but it was like just a chaotic box that I'd like throw them into. I wonder where that box is now. Okay, a little bit of feedback before we wrap things up. Feedback continues to come in about shower curtains, and I appreciate all of it. Someone wrote in about our Porn Revisited episode. Several mentions of cream pie without defining the term. Since I refuse to feed that query into my algorithm, I suppose I'll have to live with the mystery. Someone left that comment, and then someone just said, what a cream pie was. Should I read it out? People are mystified.
Let's go for it.
It's when a guy comes inside without a condom on, and then the semen drips out when he withdraws. So there you go. Heather, you now know what a cream pie is.
She's probably not the only one that didn't know.
There'd be a lot of people that don't, and that's fine.
Yeah.
The thing that blew my mind on that porn set was that the guy came, withdrew, and then we all just waited. Because it's like everyone expected to sort of come out instantly, but didn't. But they needed that shot for the porn film. So we're all just like sitting, like looking at this vagina, like waiting for semen to come out. It was one of the weirdest 3 minutes of my
life. I like
life.
the idea of picturing you there with like a bib on and waiting for a cream pie.
Where is it? Where's the pie?
Not knowing.
Katie wrote a really nice message. She said, it's nearing midnight here in Australia, and as usual, I'm reaching out to people that I appreciate. It would be remiss of me not to wish you all a happy new year. In a year where I have not only just lived on this planet, which was difficult, I've had to endure a whole lot of hard things this year. She then lists a bunch of stuff, which I'm not going to read out because I think it's probably identifying. But it was some really, really intense stuff she went through. And she said, through all these crazy moments, I've had you guys in my ear, keeping me entertained and informed. Being someone born in Australia, there's a lot of American culture that's mostly foreign to me, despite having visited New York twice. So thanks for the work you guys do. And she included a photo of her daughter Dita wearing one of our t-shirts. And then she said in her email, she listens to Flightless Bird with me, and your voices calm her down when she's hungry for her lunch at 8:30 in the morning. And I was like, that's weird. Opened up the thing. Dita is a cat. She's wearing a t-shirt. Beautiful. I was like, she's talking about her daughter in a really unusual way. She said, Happy New Year, guys. And I just thought that was a really nice email to bring in the new year. We're in 2025, Rob.
2025.
Do you sometimes think we had a show called Beyond 2000 growing up? Did you have that?
I don't know that one, no.
It was basically about all the futuristic stuff we were going to have in the year 2000 and beyond.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. It was like flying hoverboards and like the future felt really crisp and clean.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel here in 2025, I feel like I'm looking around our studio. There's cables everywhere. There's like junk all over the place.
I don't think that's
it's
true.
like
it's pretty clean and cables is pretty
it is
tiny.
Pretty clean. But I'm just saying, like, sometimes I'm like, we're in 2025. It feels like we're not in the future. Or do you feel like we are? We've just been talking about AI frogs.
Yeah, I mean, I have moments of both.
Yeah.
I think it's that thing where, like, as we're living through the progression, it's hard for us to see the difference. But then we're also talking about LiveJournal and MySpace from 25 years ago.
And I just spent my new year watching Creed, who had pretty much a full show. So, like, we're at that age now where we're starting to loop back through trends. Because there are kids now who, like, genuinely love nu metal. Like, Korn is back. That's crazy. So, like, we're living through these cycles now. So that feels strange.
I think the thing that is strangest to me is when you look back at movies and it's like Back to the Future taking place at a certain time, or the Jetsons take place.
And now it's in our past.
Yeah. And we were nowhere near that, but also, like, you expected the screenwriter from this movie to accurately depict what the future looks like, but the future was kind of painted in this picture based on that.
Completely. Yeah, I guess our expectations were set up by Hollywood and by the fiction we were reading and watching, and so not all of that is going to be correct. I just wanted flying cars by now. That's all. That's all I want.
I mean, we have planes.
We've got planes, which are amazing.
Yeah.
All right. 2025, let's do some good episodes. And I can't wait to see what we come up with.
Yeah, we've got some Australia stuff coming up.
We do.
soon.
I recorded 3 episodes when I was in Australia, so it's the idea of this flightless bird being like thrust into a new country. Got 3 quite weird episodes to bring you, so looking forward to those.
I spent some of my Christmas with an Australian, so
how was that?
I had Australian meat pie, or an Australian sausage roll.
Sausage roll.
Which I have been craving since we had them, and
aren't they the best?
They made them again and dropped more off.
Yeah, New Zealand sausage rolls and Australian sausage rolls, same thing. Isn't the pastry the fluffiest, nicest casing for that little like sausage middle?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And then I doused in sriracha, which you don't know about, but we'll figure
it's going to
out
be an
that episode.
We'll get there. All right. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year's.